Story 1. I'm single and always have been. I live with my mother and do not have any children. It never goes well. Story 2. I am learning 4 languages and am fluent in 2. There is always someone asking me to say something in a particular language, and my mind goes blank. Story 3. I dislike discussing personal matters with my coworkers. Do you want to know my favorite color as well? Or should we get back to work? Story 4. Personal issues, such as mental health and sexual orientation, can lead to awkward conversations at times. As an introvert, I dislike awkward conversations. Story 5. My in-laws cover about 70 to 80% of my husband and my bills. We are very thankful for them, but it can be awkward when people ask how we have what we do at our age. Most people understand, and we're obviously not going to turn down their offers. However, some judge us for receiving help. As a result, I tend to hesitate when discussing what we have and how we got it. Story 6. Not anymore, but when I was younger, I never liked mentioning that my mother had passed away because I didn't want people to say they were sorry if they didn't mean it. Story 7. My past and personal experiences have shaped who I am. I feel like it often makes people view me as a charity case. Story 8. I wish there was a way to show people how difficult things are for me without having to sit down and explain it all. It would be like a badge of my struggles. Story 9. That I'm bisexual and that I'm an orphan. I hesitate to share my sexuality because I rarely receive neutral reactions. Being an orphan is challenging to express. I want people to understand that I genuinely am okay and don't need pity. I'm not trying to be strong. I'm fine. There's no way to preface "my parents died when I was young" without inviting sympathy. Story 10. I am a crossdresser with feelings related to gender identity, even though I do not identify as transgender. Few people are willing to understand, as most have already formed opinions on the matter without much knowledge. The prejudice is astonishing. Story 11. Whatever you are supposed to say when introducing yourself to a new group of people, here are 3 things about me. I understand the concept, but icebreaker games can be uncomfortable. Let's get to know each other better. Story 12. I have been almost a complete hermit since I was 13. I joke about it, but it is embarrassing to have wasted so much of my life like this. Story 13. I do not share personal information with anyone. You would need to conduct thorough research to learn anything about me. This is how I prefer it. Story 14. I don't have a boyfriend right now. It always turns into them saying, I have a son or grandson. That's great, but I don't care. Story 15. Anytime I have to say I am colorblind, I then have to explain what that means, and yes, I can see that color. Story 16. It gets really awkward really fast if I tell people, no, I didn't only have girls, but my boys didn't live long enough to be born. Yes, I did raise 5 kids, but no, I didn't give birth to all of them. My sister gave me a couple. This leads to questions I don't want to answer. I'm not married or dating because I don't even want to share this one. Story 17. I appear to be poor. I drive a Kia and wear inexpensive clothing. I am not actually poor. I am a software engineer who dislikes showing off, so I understand the confusion. However, I am financially stable. Unfortunately, looking poor often results in receiving unsolicited advice. This tends to happen a lot, especially during a rising market when everyone believes they have figured out the stock market. When the advice becomes too overwhelming, I feel compelled to explain my financial situation just to make them stop. Story 18. Basic family information. I got married young, had 4 children close in age, and my husband is almost a decade older. People often assume my children are my siblings. I have been married nearly 30 years, and people often react negatively when they do any kind of math regarding my life. It's just boring to have the same conversation repeatedly. I do have other things going on in my life that I would prefer to talk about. Story 19. I tested into Mensa in high school. Fortunately, it rarely comes up while I am out delivering pet food for my job. Story 20. I am 26 years old, live with my parents, and do not have a job. When people ask if I want to have children, I say no. I have never been in a relationship, so I cannot imagine getting married or having kids. I believe parenting is not for everyone, but I do not understand why people get upset or look at me oddly when I express this opinion. Story 21. I am impatient. I constantly worry about how to get to the next place or finish something as quickly as possible. Story 22. I am bisexual and have children. People often feel the need to ask me a multitude of personal questions and seem to believe that I am attracted to them and everyone else who is alive. Story 23. I am divorced from my children's mother. I do not know why it is so common now, but it still brings me shame. We have a great relationship. Both of us are remarried and we are one big family. However, telling strangers still feels uncomfortable. Story 24. Telling people I am from Venezuela feels burdensome due to the news about what people from my country are experiencing. I love my nationality, but I prefer to keep it to myself because I do not want others to perceive me as a war criminal. Story 25. I have a poor fear reflex. I don't feel anything unless the danger is obvious and extreme. People misunderstand my behavior and assume I'm trying to be edgy, rather than recognizing that I may have a cognitive impairment or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Story 26. I'm a lesbian. It's awkward, especially since I live in a very conservative area and I present as feminine. Story 27. Now that I want to date again, not so much in other social settings, I dread explaining that I have never been a capitalist accumulator of wealth or security. I am late to the retirement planning conversation and live small with roommates intentionally. I can feel their discomfort as they tense up, thinking I am financially unstable. I can show them I am a healthy and great person, but I cannot demonstrate that I have been the long-term planner and provider they seek. Story 28. I dislike being invited to join running clubs and then having to explain that I had lung surgery as a child and I am not supposed to run. This often leads to people trying to encourage me. I am here for a good power walk, and that is it. Story 29. I don't drink alcohol. The questions and the judgment, along with the assumption that I'm not fun, or that I can't be invited anywhere because I don't drink, are not true. Story 30. I'm in a band. There's always the same questions. What's your band's name? What instrument do you play? What kind of music do you perform? What is your upcoming show schedule? Story 31. I don't have a father. Growing up, people often expressed sympathy, giving me those pitiful looks. I despised it. Now it's a bit better, but I still rarely share this with others. Story 32. Answering the question, where are you from originally? With I'm from here is not a sufficient response. Story 33. I dislike informing people that I have autism or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or an unexplained mood dysregulation issue. I feel less worthy of friendship the moment I share any of this. Story 34. I am a vegetarian. I prefer not to bring this up because there is a misconception that some people make it their entire personality, and that no one is an exception. I only mention it when we are making plans to eat and it needs to be addressed. Story 35. About my ADHD and mental health history. People love to act like you have the wrong diagnosis as if they know you, especially if you are taking any medication. Story 36. I am gay. Additionally, I have depression and anxiety disorders. These aspects of my identity have become overused cliched jokes in our society, often associating me with stereotypes related to them. Story 37. My birthday. I don't hate my birthday or celebrating it. I just don't like telling people when it is because I don't like the attention that comes with it. It's nice when people remember it, but I don't like the attention. Story 38. I have food allergies. Nothing ruins a wanna hang out, like not being able to eat at any restaurant or even the food they offer me. I'm a teenager and basically every hangout involves a trip to a fast food restaurant, a food court, or just ordering pizza. I feel like I'm not interesting enough to have friends who want to do anything else. I hate it. Story 39. I'm 20 and have never kissed a girl. I suppose people's surprise is a good sign, though. Story 40. I'd rather text than call any day. I will let your call go to voicemail and then text back, hey, what's up? Story 41. What I do for a living involves explaining how I left a difficult job, attempted a small business, succeeded for a time, and then faced challenges. Currently, I am in the process of getting training for a new opportunity. Even in a brief summary, it can feel lengthy. Imagine how much longer it takes to explain in a way that doesn't make me seem like someone who is just doing the bare minimum to succeed. Story 42. I'm a furry. People often have no clue what furries actually are, and they frequently express negative opinions about it. Story 43. I don't have my driver's license. I'm almost 30, and I've been working on it, but I've been making slow progress due to anxiety. If people ask why I don't drive, I usually just say I can't afford a car right now, which is true, but it is not the main reason. Story 44. I conceal my low income, which is supplemented by living in a low-cost small town with my family. My expenses primarily consist of credit card bills from dining out and travel, along with any medical costs. I also have a YouTube channel, but I earn very little from it, so I feel embarrassed to share this with anyone, especially since my content attracts an audience that fetishizes my work. Story 45. I have no work ethic whatsoever. People tell me to work hard or I will fail, but I just physically can't. It's basically procrastination all the time. It's a miracle I get out of bed. It's not that I'm lazy. I actually try to do anything, but I can't keep myself motivated long enough. Story 46. I am a victim of sexual abuse. It changes how people perceive you. Boyfriends suddenly want details and feel insecure because of what happened to me. Friends feel they need to know what occurred so they can try to make me feel better about it. The real damage was not the event itself, but how it affected people's perception of me afterward. Story 47. I have major sensory issues. Whenever I am at someone else's house, I usually prefer to sit on the floor or in a wooden chair rather than on a couch. Often, people do not accept my explanation that I do not like the feeling of other people's fabrics on my body. Instead, I typically say that I have an allergy to a certain fabric type. Story 48. I dislike sharing details about my education and work. I am an aerospace engineer, and people often talk about it once they find out. I do not find it very interesting, and I prefer not to answer questions about how many rockets I have built. Story 49. I have had no contact with my family for 20 years, 21 years as of November 25th. There has been no call, email, or text. Everyone else seems to have a family that cares for them, and I do not. Story 50. I am epileptic, and I cannot drive for 3 months if I have a seizure. I also lose my job when that happens. Story 51. You'll find love one day. Some individuals who have not experienced life without being in a relationship since they were May 16th disagree. Empirically, I can say that it may not happen, and framing it as something meant to be only sets up disappointment. Story 52. Pretty much anything. I'm so embarrassed by my hobbies and work. It's why I have no friends or girlfriend and lack confidence. Story 53. Being a veteran. I am perfectly fine with people assuming that only my husband is on active duty and that I am just the wife along for the ride. Story 54. My severe eating disorder history. People don't realize that for most, it never completely goes away. I have been recovering for 8 years, but my relationship with food is still awful. Story 55. I was a Peace Corps volunteer and worked with an ambulance. What is the craziest thing you have seen? Both experiences represented years of my life, during which I have encountered and accomplished amazing things. Feel free to ask me a real question. Story 56. I am reflecting on my life. I do not work, and I have nothing to say about it. I feel very unaccomplished. Story 57. My mental health appointments are incredibly awkward, especially when people try to joke about them. Story 58. I have several siblings, and I am the middle child, being number 5 out of 9. I often get surprised reactions like, "Oh wow," followed by a blank stare or comments like, "Your poor mom." People generally do not want to spend time with me because they don't want to handle that many people. Story 59. I can play instruments like the guitar and piano. I am not very good, nor am I a songwriter. However, people expect you to recall and perform as if it were your primary job. Music isn't even a hobby for me. My grandfather was a music teacher, that's all. Story 60. Anything about parents is difficult for me. My mom passed away, and whenever I say my parents, it reminds me of my loss. I often struggle to find the right words to continue the conversation. Story 61. I am an atheist because people who believe in religion often want to know why. I do not feel the need to change their minds as they seem content with their beliefs, and who am I to disrupt that? I also believe that religion can be a positive force and beneficial for many individuals, providing them with purpose and happiness, as long as it does not harm others. Story 62. Usually, the built-up trauma I experience when reflecting on my upbringing and dysfunctional family is not awkward, but at this point, it feels like a well-rehearsed stand-up routine. I try to present it lightly while in reality, it is the root of many core personal issues. Sometimes, I find it challenging to share my identity without the backstory. People tend to respond with sympathy, which makes me uncomfortable. I want others to understand me, not to feel pity or sorrow for me. I dislike how discussing my experiences can overwhelm others or deeply affect them. Perhaps I share too much too soon, but it can be exhausting to hear sorry repeatedly. I have accepted what I've been through, and I will talk about it because it is cathartic. However, I do not wish to be seen as a charity case. When I meet others with similar backgrounds, it is a relief. We often laugh and bond over our struggles, celebrating how much better we are doing now. Story 63. I am the product of ancestral rape. People often ask about my birth heritage when they see a photo of my sperm donor taken weeks before he died on Christmas Eve 1970. I was born in mid-March 1971. Even though I am female, there is a strong resemblance to him, including features such as eyes, cheekbones, and chin. You can see the reactions unfold right before your eyes. Story 64. I don't openly share it, but I dislike when people discover that I am intelligent. In my 32 years of life, I have not determined whether this perception is real or not, but I feel that once people know you are intelligent, they treat you differently. Can be quite isolating. Story 65. I don't care about the stages their children are in. I don't care if you are pregnant. How can people find it responsible to multiply at this time? Shaking my head at breeders. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.